Yeah. We had a project in Idaho just recently that we it was a wholesale deal. We flipped some land
Okay.
in Soda Spring, Idaho.
Okay. I've heard of it. I've never been.
Yeah,
Okay.
a lot of stuff happening there. They have a fertilizer plant that is doing really well because of what's been doing well for the last few years because of the conflict with Russia and you know we were getting a lot of our fertilizer from them. So now it's come home. So they benefited from that significantly and got some mining permits renewed. And so, anyways, there's a lot of cool stuff happening in Soda Spring.
Interesting.
It's just a small town, too.
Very small town, right?
Yeah, yeah. About an hour from Boise.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. How funny. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot to explore up there. We enjoy it.
yeah.
It's fun. We enjoy it. We dialed?
Yeah.
Okay. We're up. There she is. Dialed in. Ramon, how are we, brother?
I'm doing all right, brother.
Yeah?
Excited to be here.
I'm excited for you, man. I'm
Thank you.
excited to kind of tell the world your story.
Yeah, thank you.
You know, what was upbringing like for you?
Well, that's a pretty broad question, but if I can maybe start it off by saying, you know, I grew up in Southern California.
Yeah.
I guess just, LA, super poor, 11 of us living in a 1-bedroom apartment,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And then things got a little bit better, moved out of LA, moved to the San Fernando Valley. I was very fortunate.
SFV.
That's right.
Okay.
Sun Valley, if you know where.
I know exactly where it's at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next to Burbank.
Yeah, I know exactly where it's at.
Yeah.
Funny. Okay.
I was very fortunate. I worked hard, right? I was very disciplined and got good grades. Almost had straight A's in my last couple years in high school, and
Really?
yeah, was very fortunate to get accepted to USC. So I graduated from USC with an accounting degree. So
Man.
yeah,
Do you attribute that school discipline to scarcity? Or was that something that was instilled in you from like parental beginnings?
I think it's both. I think it's both. Yeah, that's an interesting way to ask that question because never thought of it that way. But yeah, it's definitely scarcity. That was easy, right? I could definitely say that that's a factor. But it's interesting because my dad, I used to work with him, doing little side jobs, right? After he was done with work, he'd get jobs from
What did he
different
do?
people. Like construction jobs, sidewalks, concrete, carpentry work, just little side jobs he would get, to try to help out, you know what I mean? Because we were pretty poor, right? So, and I'd work alongside him. And on the weekends, his discipline, he would work from, morning till dusk, there was just he would, he didn't want to take a break to eat, you know what I mean? And I had to be alongside him, right? So I couldn't take a break. So if he was working, I was working, and never thought of it that way. But it's interesting because it bothered me as a kid, but it's actually definitely instilled this kind of discipline and work ethic that is very obvious now, is very, prominent.
It's funny you say that. I talk about my childhood, my upbringing with my dad he's the reason that I didn't do drugs.
Yeah.
Right? Like it wasn't a church thing, wasn't a biblical thing, it wasn't a dare project. It was like I saw the destruction that it caused. So it was a very simple, that's not going to happen.
Right.
Right? It was an easy checkbox for me.
Yeah.
So I was just curious, kind of like you're saying, you wonder if you go back into that fallible mind of a child and you go, man, I see this 1-bedroom apartment.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to be here.
Yeah.
You wonder if that kind of pushed you.
Absolutely.
That's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was mom around?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Mom, it's funny because, I talked about my dad just a moment ago, but, I think growing up, right, more of as a teenager and beyond, and even now to this day, she's my biggest cheerleader. She is, I'm close with my mom,
Really?
She really has been amazing in my life and has always believed in me, always, been there to help me out in any way, shape, or form. Even now that things are going well, she's just, always wish me good luck, that kind of thing. And it means a lot to me,
Yeah.
Yeah. Mom's amazing, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. You getting emotional about mom.
Yeah. No, mom's amazing. It's I just recently, things are starting to go well, so I just recently was able to, to do something nice for her. I wanted to get her a car, and and I asked her what she wanted, and I thought she was gonna say like a nice Lexus or a Camry or something, right? she wanted a Jeep. So so I got her this from this youngster who was selling a Jeep, completely souped up with the big tires and all the stuff to go off-roading, right? I mean, this is, you know, something you'd imagine like a 20-year-old, but she wanted that. So I went in and bought that, and, you know, was able to, very fortunate to be able to buy that for her, right? So, but that's just the beginning, you know what I mean? I'm looking to really give back to both of them as much as possible. They, you know, I owe them a lot. So
Yeah.
yeah.
They're still around.
Yeah.
Man, it's a blessing.
It is. Yeah.
That's a big time blessing. And you mentioned 11 people in that apartment.
Mm-hmm.
With siblings, family members. How was the?
Yeah, this is way back, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it was. I have two sisters,
Okay.
right? And then I have a stepbrother, and then, you know, my father had some other family that came over, and anyway, for a pretty long while, like I couldn't tell you exactly for how long it was. And I know it's 11 because we've argued about this before, because my dad, you know, remembers differently, says, no, it wasn't 11. And this is, you know, some time back, right? He thought it wasn't as many people, but then we've actually sat back and actually thought about it and said, well, let's count.
And it is.
It's 11.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's incredible, man. Sometimes that first generation, just like work ethic, is something you can't even manufacture.
Yeah. It's interesting, you know, because I think it's, you know, that drive can come from a lot of different places, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to come from necessarily the same place. And then if you look at some of the most successful people, right? They all have interesting stories, right? Pain, right?
Yeah.
That drives them. I don't know if you know who Alex Hormozy is.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he talks about some of this stuff, right? Where he and I won't remember what they are, but he talks about these three pillars. He says that the three things that he's found that very successful people have in common.
Mm-hmm.
And those are very broad concepts. So it doesn't have to be necessarily, right? First generation or living in a, you know, 1-bedroom apartment. It could be any number of things.
Sure.
I mean, even somebody like, you know, had some traumatic event that happened to them when they were a child, right? Any type of traumatic event, they can take that and they can become a victim, right? And then, right, poor me for the rest of their life. Or they can take that and turn it into something absolutely beautiful and amazing and do some amazing things in life, you know, with it. So
Yeah.
it's a choice to some degree.
Man, I'm with you, brother. I think pain is Mother Teresa has an interesting concept about pain, and she talks about it in the vein of suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And she talks about suffering being a gift.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of interesting.
It is.
Because, you know, if you relate it scripturally or biblically, however you want to say, is like we oftentimes say that we want to be closer to, like, you know, a higher power, right? But yet we complain when we have the trials that a higher power would ask you to go through.
Right.
And so to your point about Hormozy, he makes that comment in one of his clips. He says, if you were to make the perfect human, if you were like the almighty being and you were to make the perfect human, do you think that you would give him pain or pleasure?
Mm-hmm.
You'd give him pain.
Right.
Do you think that you give him simplicity or difficulty? Difficulty.
Right.
Right?
It's true.
It's very true.
Yeah.
But I loved your comment about, and I'm going to stick on this because this just always bugs me to tears. Bro, victim mentality.
Yeah.
Oh, it's toxic.
It is.
It's toxic.
It is.
It is. It drives me nuts.
Yeah.
It drives me nuts.
Yep.
It really is. I had the opportunity to spend some time with Jordan Peterson a couple years ago.
Nice.
Very short period of time. Very smart man. Incredible man.
Yeah.
And he laid this concept out. He did a lot of things that night with us, but this one stuck with me forever. And he said, obviously very more eloquent than this, Jordan Peterson said, if your Sunday morning routine feels differently than your Monday morning, it's only because you're privileged.
Interesting.
Right? 60% of the world, 70% of the world is just worried about eating and water.
Right.
But on Sunday morning, we do different things. You might go to church. You might go to brunch. You might wake up a little bit later, right? Your routine on that Sunday morning, if it feels differently, if it is different than that Monday morning hustle and bustle and movement and emails and phone calls and stress and kids out it's because you're privileged.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I never thought of it that way, but it is true. This Sunday, it's funny we're talking about this. This Sunday was probably the first Sunday, this last Sunday, that I decided to, have a little bit of fun. have a boat that I purchased, and I got it fixed. I took it out a couple times. It broke down on me. I guess that's
Of
normal with
course.
boats, right? They're always breaking down. So
Right.
got it fixed. And then this Sunday, I thought, before the summer's over, I got to take my parents out to the lake. So, because they live here right, locally. So, so this Sunday morning, I took them out to the lake, and but that's not usually, that's not what a typical Sunday looks
Sure.
like, right? My typical Sunday looks very similar to a Monday. And even though in some ways, right, if we look at this kind of on a more global, from a global perspective, I'm still privileged, right? I mean, there's people that are struggling, they're starving. The people that are they're dealing with much more difficult things than the stuff that I'm having to deal with. But my Sundays are very similar to my Mondays typically, just because I'm in that grind mode right now.
Sure.
Just hustling. I got some goals. I'm on a mission, and
Good.
So
I love it.
yeah.
Let's go back to graduating USC. You graduate, degree in accounting. Where do you go from there?
So that's an interesting it's an interesting time in my life, because I've worked so hard, right, to be able to graduate at the top of my class. I got all these accolades, and I get an offer from Deloitte and Touche, you know what I mean? Which was, I worked so hard to get that offer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, $41,000 to start back then, that was considered a lot, and not now necessarily, but anyways, but the point is that I get this job offer almost a year before I graduate, and then right after I graduate, before starting with them, right, because there was a little bit of, there was a window there, I get bit by the entrepreneur bug, and I decided to turn down the offer, and never looked back since. Wow. Yeah, so I never actually went to I was supposed to become an auditor,
Sure.
CPA, and instead I went and became an entrepreneur, started a landscaping and construction company, got into commercial real estate within about a year of graduating, had a USC alum reach out to me. It was multifamily, cold calling, nothing glamorous. Sounds glamorous, but it wasn't. It was just cold calling, just 8 hours of nothing but just cold calling.
Who were you calling?
Property owners.
Okay. And what was the pitch?
So it's been a while, but it would be something like, so I'd go, what's your last name again, Travis? Richey. So I go, Mr. Richey, this is Ramon with Southern California Commercial Real Estate. Was calling you because it looks like you own an apartment building here on, Normandy. It looks like it's 12 units. We have a buyer that's interested in making you an offer. Would you be willing to entertain an offer from them? Just the basic pitch. Probably hasn't changed much.
No, man, that's good.
Yeah, and
how successful was that?
So it's interesting because I'm an introvert by nature. I've made myself become a little more extroverted, but by nature I'm just an introvert. So I struggled with it, right? Just cold calling people, getting yelled at, screamed at, and it was not easy. You know what I mean?
Man.
But what's interesting is because of my discipline, right? That discipline again, I quickly rose to be the best one in the office, and was doing better than everybody else. Did it for about a year and a half. So did sell some apartment buildings, and and then shortly after that moved to Utah. So
okay.
Yeah, that was in 2005.
Okay. Why did you choose here? Do you remember?
Utah?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's my parents, my sisters, everybody
was here.
It's LDS, yeah, and everybody, we had they had come to visit here before I'd come to visit. You know what I mean? And
coming back to the mothership.
Yeah, and it's funny because I was the black sheep. I was the only one that was not LDS. Yeah.
Okay. Were you ever baptized?
I did eventually, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Older, not 8.
No, older, much older. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So, in my family, they converted to the LDS church. So
yeah. My mom too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very fun.
Yeah.
So you moved to Utah, and do you continue commercial property?
No, because I was starting from scratch, and then really had to start from the bottom again. Didn't know anybody, so I actually went to go work at American Heritage School in American Fork, and was the accountant for them, and did that for about 2.5 years. Got my real estate license to become a realtor right while I was there, and the real estate started taking off, and then that's when I eventually left. So
wow.
Yeah.
And you left to go do your own thing?
Yeah, I had a few businesses. I was a realtor, but also had some businesses. Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah.
Very fun. I love that. So everything's going well here in Utah.
Yep.
Everything's positive.
Yep.
Right? And then the left turn.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I mean, do you go back? Do you relive that? Like, what if? And I'm asking you because I do.
Yeah.
Like, do you go back and do you relive that?
I did when I was incarcerated. While during that time when I was incarcerated, I did go back. During that time, I many times played it
Yeah.
over and over. Not anymore.
Really?
Not anymore. No, it is what it is. It's
Yeah.
there's so many different reasons for why. We started this conversation, I think, towards the beginning, talking about, if you were trying to make a superhero, right?
Yes.
What would you put him through, right? And in some ways, I look at that and I go, yeah, that whole experience, as horrible as it was, there's so many good things that have come from it. So many good things, including like the person that I've become.
Mm-hmm.
Right, the strength that it took to endure that. Like, let me tell you, that comes in handy, like on an almost daily basis. You know what I mean? To have that fortitude, that strength, to know that you can't be broken.
Mm-hmm.
I could have broken, right? Like I was supposed to spend the rest of my life in prison. I was never supposed to be sitting here across from you, ever. Like I was gonna rot and die in that little jail cell, and here I am. And I worked my ass off to get that, to make that happen. You know what I mean?
Right. How long did you spend inside?
Almost 12 years, just shy, 3 months shy of 12 years.
Good gracious.
Got it overturned, represented myself for about 4 years. Had to go to court. I think I mentioned to you before in a brief conversation, a pin bag. A pin bag is, for those that don't know, it's a laundry bag, right? Where you put your dirty clothes. So I had an extra one, and I used to put all my legal work there, 60, 70 pounds. I mean, it was a lot of legal work because I was doing direct examinations and cross-examinations of my trial attorneys, expert witnesses, lay witnesses. Had to learn the rules of evidence, rules of civil procedure or criminal procedure, all kinds of stuff. It was a mission, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I did all this shackled. Like, it wasn't like I went to court and then like, okay, let's treat you like a human being and take your, no, I was like, you know what I mean? Like armed guards behind me, and I'm sitting there, a pencil, holding a pencil, you know what I mean? They were just watching me. They were all sketchy, right? And I'm representing myself the whole time and, answering objections and making objections myself and going toe-to-toe against two prosecutors and their paralegal, you know what I mean?
Wow.
And it's just me sitting there in my little prison whites, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
They didn't even give you regular clothes.
No, it didn't matter at that point, right? But just to paint the picture is why I bring that up. But it didn't matter because there was no jury. At that point, I had already been convicted. So typically they'll give you your regular clothes, right, to wear when you're going to a trial initially, right? So that the jury's not biased against you. But at this point, no, I'm done, right? Like,
wow.
Yeah.
So did you take your case to trial?
I did. I went to trial. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Had public defenders, all kinds of interesting things there. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure there's some good public defenders out there, but, if we could be honest here, I mean, a lot of them are not.
Correct.
Yeah, they're.
Correct. Their caseload is very heavy.
And some of them don't care. My lead attorney blatantly lied in some egregious ways, like just like you're thinking, why? There's no need to lie. But then I exposed her, right, during that time that I represented myself. My lead attorney, I put her on the stand 4 times. Barbara Gonzalez. I put her on the stand 4 times, but it was all very strategic. And on the last day is when I attacked. But at that point, when I say attacked, I mean, I said, okay, isn't it true, counsel, that you said, you know what I mean? Isn't it true, counsel? Isn't it true? But at that point, I'd already established all the foundation, right?
Sure.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, it's strategic, like a trial attorney, right? And then on that last day, it was just boom, boom, boom. And she lost it in front of the judge, you know what I mean?
Really?
Yeah. She goes, I'm not going to answer that. And I said, Your Honor, she has to answer. And the judge didn't know what to do, right? Because here he has, an experienced, seasoned attorney being belligerent, you know what I mean? And lying, clearly lying. At that point, I was proving it. At that point, I'd already established it, because, like I said, it was all strategic. So for the first 2 or 3 days, just establishing, here's this exhibit. Isn't it true that I sent you this letter? Yes. Isn't that your writing on that letter? Yes. What does it say across the top? Had their stamp and everything. Anyway, I did all that, you know what I mean? For 4 years, I represented myself, and it was a crazy experience.
Incredible. Wild experience.
Yeah.
Do you remember the day that you were charged with it?
I do.
Yeah.
You mean the day I was arrested?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How'd that unfold?
That was called in, right? Called into the police station, right? That they had some questions. And yeah, I started, I made some mistakes, right? And I get called out to speak to classes, you know what I mean, at some of the local schools here. And and then one of the things I always point out right in the beginning, I go, hey, look, I made some decisions that made me look guilty. So I totally get it. And that was part of what I struggled with during those 12 years, right? Coming to terms with that, right? That I screwed up. I did some things that made me look guilty, but I was not guilty. But it made me look guilty. So took full responsibility for that. Still take full responsibility for that. And so when I got called in, right, to go back to your question, yeah, absolutely. They to them, I looked guilty as well, right? To the police officers that were interviewing me. And yeah, it was an interrogation that lasted 6 hours, 8 hours, something like that.
Wow, down at the police station.
Yeah. And then, and to go back to because, once again, I don't like that whole poor me mentality at all.
Sure.
But I think that there's problems within the system, right? The criminal justice system, and you have to address them. You have to fix them. Otherwise, then what's the Bill of Rights for, right? It means nothing. Like it's, you know what I mean? If you have them in writing, but you don't follow them, they mean nothing. Then what good are they? So, for example, right, your Fifth Amendment or Sixth Amendment right to counsel, right? And under that, you have all your Miranda rights and all this other stuff, right? Anyways, the point is that like during that interrogation, like my Miranda rights were violated over and over and over. And when it was brought to the judge's attention, they just disregarded it. You know what I mean? Things aren't what people think. Like
no. I remember my criminal defense attorney told me if the general public understood what this blender was like, there would be blood in the streets. Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah, probably one of the most prominent defense attorneys on the West Coast. Yeah, and that's exactly what he told me. So to your point, I think we both agree we're not going to commiserate about woe is me because we're here.
No, exactly.
But heavy is that there's some massive problems with mass incarceration, and there's some huge problems with assuming just the assumption. In my instance, I'll give you a concrete example. Sure. So I was indicted, and from my time of indictment, I fought this case 5 years and change. And for the general public to learn that I was never arrested, never once, never handcuffed, never read my Miranda rights, never once, from 2007 to 2012, never once. That's crazy talk, right? From a general legal perspective, right. From a criminal perspective, it's like, no, Ramon did something wrong, Travis did something wrong. This is what it is. You handcuff them, you say it, none of it. I'd never once, no mugshot, no booking, no arrest, nothing. Yeah. 5.5 years. Wow. Crazy. So you're fighting the government on a charge that you weren't charged for. You were accused of, so you're fighting it. But you weren't allowed to defend yourself while you were accused of it. Nobody would believe you that was the real setup. Right. Shocking.
It is.
So you go into that interrogation room, and is that when they hit you with the charge after you're done with this 8 hours of, beat down? Yeah. Emotional wear and tear?
Yeah. Yeah. Really? I've watched that video and read that transcript many times. Oh, back.
That had to just break you at first.
Oh, yeah. At first, yeah. Yeah, just to watch it. Yeah.
Oh, totally.
Because at that point, when I'm watching the video, right, I had to jump through all kinds of hoops to be able to
get it.
Yeah, to be able to get it, to be able to ask the prison to allow me to watch it, right? Because I'm in prison at that point, of course. Right? And but yeah, it was rough watching that at first. But then I ended up watching it many times.
So many times you were
read the transcripts so many times. I mean, even here's something interesting. Like, I mean, we're talking about all this stuff, like anomalies or improprieties or whatever you want to call them, right? But even watching the video and then reading the transcript, right? Just that alone, like the inconsistency, and some of the stuff looked like it was intentional, right? In the transcripts, where it's just wrong, right? It's transcribed incorrectly, and it wasn't one example or two or a dozen of them. It was tons of them, and you're just like somebody had an agenda, right? Whoever's transcribing had an agenda. But it's whatever. It is what it is. Sure. It's unfortunate, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of little things like that, you know what I mean, within the system that are. Yeah, like you said, if people knew, right, they'd be shocked.
People would be super surprised.
Yeah.
Do they arrest you that day and charge you and book you and take you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What was that process like?
So, um, so I guess so interrogate it for 6 or 8 hours, whatever it was, and then sometime at 2 in the morning, at that point, after they've offered me some pizza, I eat a pizza, a slice of pizza, and shortly thereafter they come in and take all your stuff out your pockets, handcuff me, take me down to the jail. And that's quite the experience. I had never been in trouble before, like, never been arrested or anything. So that was an interesting experience to go to the jail, get booked, right, get stripped, bend over, cough, all this stuff, right? And that was quite the experience. And then getting into the dorm setting, right? Like, it's funny because I don't think people could really understand what that's like if you've never been through that, right? Like you're not in your clothes. Now you're in a jumpsuit that's too big for you, that, doesn't feel right. You're in underwear. They're not even your underwear. And you walk into this dorm room and there's a bunch of guys there and everybody's just kind of like, there's a certain feel to it and everybody's got a certain, and everybody's, in a different place, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And you walk in and they point you at a bunk.
That's your rack.
And jump up there and good luck trying to sleep. You know what I mean? Like the
lights never turn off.
Never turn off. It's bright.
It's loud.
It's loud. Somebody's snoring. Somebody else is passing gas over there. Somebody's, you know what I mean? Like, and there's some people are coming off of drugs. Other people they look super relaxed because they've done this before, and this is just another
normal for them.
Yeah.
Yep.
So everybody's in a different place, and you're just kind of like scared, lost. You don't know, who you can trust, who you can talk to, and there's other people looking at you the same way. They don't know if they can trust you, right? So It's just...
No, 100%. So yours?
That's not mine, is it?
I don't think so.
Oh, might be.
I don't know. No worries. Yeah, it's a very uncomfortable environment, to say the least.
Yeah.
To say the least. When you get in there, do people ask you, hey, why are you here? What's your charge? Did they go through any of that stuff?
I think on that first night, I don't think anybody asked me, what I mean? Because on that first night, getting there at 2, 3 in the morning, people sleeping.
Sure.
The next day, I think people are a little cautious about asking you why you're there, right? Because for those people that aren't familiar, like some people might be there for something related to, some, child sex
crimes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then if they say that they say that to the wrong person, or the wrong person overhears that, then that person's going to take off on them and start swinging on them, right? Because some of the people that are incarcerated were victims of that.
Correct.
Which is interesting, right? I don't know if you ever thought about that yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Like some of the people that are in there for, like, especially for the violent crimes, right? Mm-hmm. Some of those individuals, they were, abused.
Correct.
As and that led to them having all these other issues, and led to anger issues, and then they become violent.
Some of the most violent ones. Yeah, to your point.
Yeah.
Some of the guys that I've interviewed who are the most violent have had massive childhood trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Massive childhood trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah, big time. But definitely frowned upon. But I mean, you're going in with a big charge, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely a different animal than I'm here for guns or drugs.
Yeah.
And so when they walk you through that, when did you realize that you were supposed to spend the rest of your life in prison?
When I got convicted, because I was naive. Like a lot of people, if you've never been in trouble with the system, you think, well, if you're innocent, all you got to do is go in there and tell the truth, and that's it. You'll quit it. That's not the reality of it. There's a ton of people in prison that thought that was the way it worked, but that's not the case. Because you could be completely innocent, but if I'm the prosecutor and I'm a master at persuasion and oratory, and I have a few little things that I can kind of string together and make you look like a villain. And then I dig up some other stuff maybe about your past because of whatever, right? Like you can craft a story and make it very persuasive. And we know this, right? Like we all know this, that we are easily persuaded. Like marketing companies know this. All the Fortune 500 companies know this. We are easily persuaded. So, you know what I mean? And not only that, but then they've done experiments, right? Where they, like they can convince somebody against their innate desires or nature, just with the right sequence of words, the right tonality, the right emotion behind it, you can convince people. So if you have a prosecutor that's a rock star, it doesn't matter if you're innocent. Like if he's a rock star and you have an idiot, a fumbling fool for a public defender, you know what I mean? Then there you go.
Man.
It's not that difficult to convict somebody who's innocent. It's not.
No.
That's the part. That's the thing that I wish we could convey to people. Like people could understand. Like really, it's not.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, it definitely isn't. There's a lot of people who I've sat with, who I've interviewed, who I've been with, who are a blender in the blender of the system. I would say. Yeah, it definitely is sad. There's one gentleman, I think I'd mentioned to you, but they gave him 213 years. Wrongfully convicted, and there's these stories over and over and over, and unfortunately they don't take the headlines. The one that do take the headlines are the idiots that make us look bad. Right. The repeat offenders, or the people that can't get it together. Who didn't get enough time on the first time, or didn't learn their lesson, but then it really bodes poorly for guys like you and I, who find ourselves in a situation where you're like, I don't even know how I got here. But yeah, unfortunate. So fast forward, you take this thing to trial.
Yeah.
What was that like?
That was not as it was an interesting experience for sure, right? It was a 3-week trial. I had 3 attorneys, 3 public defenders.
Okay.
Some interesting little fact that I would think is worth pointing out, right? After I was convicted, there was a prosecutor that was, coming in to the trial, right? And she was, I don't know how many times she showed up, but she was listening to the trial, listening to everything that was going on. And she wrote a letter, Donna Kelly, I believe was her name. She wrote a letter to, I don't know if it was to the newspaper or to the court, but they got their hand, she FedExed it. She tried to be sneaky about it, but they found out that it was her. And it was a letter where she talked about how my 3 attorneys, right, because it sounds wonderful, right, 3 public defenders, but she just ripped into them and talked about how they could have hired, she went into specifics of how they could have hired 3 monkeys, and 3 monkeys could have probably done a better job. It was kind of, it was an unfortunate situation. You know what I mean? Like it's, despite having 3 attorneys, like.
You had to be screaming inside those 3 weeks.
I wasn't screaming. I was very calm, just kind of observing, just trying to, I was optimistic. I was still naive. I was still thinking, I'll be fine. You know what I mean? I'll be acquitted. I was convinced I was going to be acquitted. Like I thought, look, the guy that, so we haven't come out and said it, right? But like, so I was charged with 1st-degree murder. And the guy that, you know what I mean, that whose life I took, right? During the course of the investigation, they found, and there's a lot of reasons why I should not have been acquitted. I should not have been found guilty. But one of those is they found this lady who he had tried to rape. She had reported him just months before all this. He had beat up one of her kids. He had, had stalked her, had done all this horrible stuff. You know what I mean? Like assaulted her, like in the middle, broad daylight. Had done all this horrible stuff. And all this stuff came out, and the jury's listening to all this. But for whatever reason, the jury still decided to convict. You know what I mean? Mm. And I say for whatever reason, like I said again, I realized I made some decisions after, right, the unfortunate situation that made me look guilty. So I totally take full accountability for that. So, that's probably where, most of the weight was given to the fact that I didn't do the right thing, right? But the right thing, it sounds great, right? But it's, if you're in the moment, like, do you mean how many people actually have the mental fortitude to be able to do what they need? You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And that's one of the things that's changed now, right? Like I
love that.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right, though. When the judge brings the jury back in and reads that out loud, does that just hit you like a Mack truck? Guilty, 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 guilty. Like.
Yeah, it did. It wasn't like an emotional thing. It hit me hard, but it wasn't like an emotional thing where I wanted to, break down or anything. It was just, Man. And at that point, I didn't understand the process for appealing, a conviction or anything like that, because that stuff had not crossed my mind. I didn't understand the law at all. I do now, right?
Sure.
I do now, and I work with a number of attorneys. That's one of the businesses that I have, and and then I get brought in to consult and to give my opinion and what do I think, and you know what I mean, like but they're the attorneys on the case. But the point is that back then I didn't really understand any of that. So when I got convicted, like I think it hit me harder afterwards, not necessarily right in that moment, because afterwards, I thought, well, I guess that's it. It's over. That's all she wrote, right? Game over. Yeah.
Heavy.
Yeah.
I remember that day. I was optimistic like you because, you'd spent so many years and walking into court, arguing, my attorney, their attorney, and nothing came of it. Nothing, there was no movement of the needle. So the day that I walk in, for sentencing, I just pulled my car up and I put money in the meter, and, I was literally that ignorant. You can call it optimism now, but, literally that ignorant. I'm thinking to myself, a lot of similar thoughts that you probably had, like, if I was really this bad, you would have had something by now. If you really had a case, you would have charged me by, you start to run these things right, wrong, or indifferent. At the end of the day, the judge read, my pedigree out loud. That was one of the things that shocked me, was all the good that I had done for the community, the amount of money that I had raised, the school that I went to, all of these things that I thought were good. Judge read it out loud and then said, because of this, I'm going to make an example out of you.
Wow.
Yeah, in the open court, in my minute entry.
Wow.
Like that, that shocks your world.
Yeah.
Like, holy cow, I'm hearing these things completely the opposite way of the way that he was interpreting them.
Right.
And I thought, man, language is super important,
right.
So to your point about, and there's been thousands of studies and stories, but there was one that's one of my favorites, and they bring a group of jurors in. There's a gentleman who prominent defense attorney, and he tells a story where he brings potential jurors into a room, and there's only enough chairs for like 7 out of 10 of the people that they bring in, and they want to see who moves out of their seat to give it, like, and then they'll bring in women, then they'll bring in elderly women, then they'll bring in pregnant women. And so all of this is going into the mind of the potential juror that this criminal defense attorney is looking at. And then he'll say, oh, well, if he's not going to give his chair up to a woman, if he's not going to give his chair up to an elderly, all of these, to your point, these psychologically impacted ideas that we go through as humans, right? And so I had to come to grips with this judge puts his pants on, one leg at a time every morning like I do. And he may have shown up, he may have been, he may not like Mexican people, he may not like white people, like these things that you're not supposed to think about in a quote unquote court of law. They absolutely get brought in because it's impossible for you as a human to not do these things. Right? Like, so I am fascinated by like the process of it. I less enjoy getting into the minutia of, the crime particularly, but I enjoy the process of it. Like, how did we actually get here? What went through the process? What did we learn from it? Right?
What's interesting is, we talk about having the best criminal justice system in the world, and what you just brought up is one of the is an interesting point, because it really comes down to the quality of the people. A lot of people don't realize that judges have so much power. They can violate your rights, and it won't matter. Like, they'll violate your rights, they even if they know you're innocent, even if they know your rights have been violated, right? But it's the quality of the person you're putting there. Same thing with the prosecutor. A prosecutor can be vindictive and can go way overboard, right? But the system is set up so that you have to put quality people to have a great quality criminal justice system, right? But there's so much room for discretion. There's so much room for discretion.
Tons.
And then right now, with all the stuff that's coming out, right, politically, like, you see it, right, the discretion, right? Like, how many millions and billions of dollars have been stolen by politicians, but no one's been held accountable, right? I mean, I haven't heard of a single senator or, or U.S. representative that's being, charged with money laundering or some,
No.
But the evidence is there, right? There's all this funny business going on with money being moved around, billions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, but no one's being held accountable. That goes back to this whole discretion, right? The whole system is set up so there's tons of discretion, and of course, some people are protected more than others, right? So,
for sure. For sure. That part's always super frustrating for me. I mean, the idea that you can be pulled over by a police officer, they can blatantly lie to you, but the moment that you, even remotely don't cooperate, it turns into an obstruction charge, it turns into a misdemeanor, and turns into an uncooperative individual, which turns into a lawful search and seizure, which turns into it's it's this massive ball of granite rolling downhill against the typical layperson. all because this person, has a badge, and went through 6 weeks at an academy somewhere. Right? It's scary. It
Yeah.
really is. It
Yeah.
really, really is scary. And,
Yeah.
and I don't know about you, but I think you take some of the things, I don't know if you saw that gentleman back in New York. I think he was in the military, young kid. And there was that drug addict that was on the subway, attacking women. I don't know if you saw that.
No.
I wish I could remember his name.
Yeah.
Big case in New York. But he ends up, putting this individual in a chokehold while he's like stabbing women, this crazy person. And they charge this young man with first-degree murder. And although he was acquitted of it, he still was charged, was still put in the system, was still ran through the mud.
Right.
Name just slaughtered.
Yeah.
Whether you're right or you're wrong, whether you're innocent or guilty,
Yeah.
after you've been, first-degree murder comes up with your name. On Google, it's all bad.
Yeah.
Right? So I bring that up only because I'm wondering how much those instances are making us as a society pull back from doing the right thing when we're seeing things happen.
Right.
I see this on YouTube and Instagram all the time where people will set up like spoofs, will the community jump in if a woman is being, fill in the blank, or if a child's bike is stolen, will the community jump in? And 9 times out of 10, they won't. And I don't know how much I don't want to be charged with a crime. I don't want to be put in a situation. I don't want to have to tell my story on CNN. I wonder how much that impacts our quote unquote right doing.
Yeah, that's interesting. One of the shows that I used to watch when I was incarcerated, and I didn't watch much TV, but once in a while when I did make time, to watch something, one of the shows that I enjoyed watching a little bit is one called "What Would You Do?"
Yes. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Can't
Keep
remember
going.
the host.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes.
He would come up with these creative scenarios.
Yes.
And to see if people would do the right thing.
Would intervene.
Would intervene. Yeah.
Yeah.
In all sorts of different situations.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, public situations like restaurants and very public.
All kinds of things. Yeah.
Man, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Did you do all 12 years in Utah?
I did. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, but just under 2 years at the county jail.
Okay. 2 years in jail is like 20 years.
I know.
Jail's a nightmare. I try to tell people prison's way better than jail.
It is.
Jail's the worst, man.
And it's funny because a lot of people, when you talk to them, you tell them, how much time you did, they try to discount that as that doesn't count. I'm like, what do you mean? That was the worst time.
2 years is worse.
Potentially.
Oh, man. I remember when I hit jail, and I remember the old heads, they would say, oh, just wait till you get to the prison yard. And you're thinking, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
But then they're like, no, you got a TV, and you can walk around, you can work out. They gave you the lay of the land. Yeah. But man, jail sucked. 2 years for you.
Yeah. Very different too, by the way. They both suck in different ways. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I spent the other 10 there in Draper, right, at the Draper prison, and that sucked for different reasons, right?
Sure.
So even though those 2 years, like you said, could be like 20, there were times when I was there in Draper that the days felt like years.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, there's days that just dragged on forever.
Yeah. While you're fighting your case. And so you're being shuffled back and forth, right? I would assume, to courts in different areas. And I'm sure you're pushing buttons on how much library time you can get. And
they didn't have a law library. In fact, I worked at the library for a while, and interestingly, right, and this was coming from the higher up, so the sergeant told me, but he said that somebody told him. And anyways, the point is that whenever we would get legal books, right, that would be donated to the library, because I worked at the library for a while, we had very strict instructions to toss them, to throw them in the trash. They didn't want a law library.
Good.
They didn't want anybody knowing, how to defend themselves, what their rights are, or anything like that. And then to get, some garbage comic book, right? Nothing against comic books, but I just say it that way because it was frustrating for me. Like to get something like that, it was easy. I could get it approved, and I can get a comic book sent in, mailed in within a few days or a couple weeks, right?
Yep.
When I wanted to get a legal book, they made me jump through so many hoops. When I had first got there, right? Because when I first got there, within a short time, I met a guy. And we can dive into that if you want, but he just was so pivotal in the beginning to getting me on the right mindset and get me on the right track. But the point is that when I first got there, after talking to him, I ordered my first legal book, and it took months. It took like 6 months, 9 months to get that first legal book. I mean, they made it seem like I was trying to bring in like
all sorts of contraband.
It was a legal book, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, but if I wanted to order, like the latest Superman comic book, I'm sure I could have got it within a couple of weeks.
Overnight.
Yeah.
Yep. I agree. And so you fight your case, you finally get to the point where you win, right? Like, how do you get to that point where you win?
So so I represented myself for about 4 years, just shy of 4 years. I went to, I think it was a total of 27 hearings, had 13 or 14 evidentiary hearings, right? I'm presenting evidence. I was the final witness. My testimony alone took a couple days, right? And they made me actually conduct it as though it was I had to ask myself questions.
Yep, back and forth, yep.
And it had to be asked, I had to ask myself the questions in the proper way, right? Which sounds easy, but it's not.
No, can't lead yourself.
Can't lead yourself.
Yep.
You got to set the foundation, right? Scope, well, not scope, but foundation and relevance and all this other stuff, right? Hearsay and all this other stuff that comes into play. And after I was done, right? Like I was the final witness. Then at that point, it was time for the brief, right? The brief had to be written. And I'd already been working on it. And then at that point, I had to decide, you know what I mean? So what do I do now? I definitely wanted a lot of time because, right, you don't have computers, you don't have a typewriter. I tried ordering typewriters, and they're approved in other prisons. But here in Utah, for some reason, prison-approved typewriters, were a problem. And yet other stuff, you know what I mean, was allowed, right? Like it's that whole, thing where it doesn't make sense, right?
No.
Like what's the big deal? What's a typewriter? You know what I mean? Like it's, yeah. They were worried that you were going to take out one of the little metal pieces and try to make a shank, like one of those little tiny little wires or whatever. But you understand, like if you've been there for a while, like you realize that one way or another, and there's no need to get into the details, one way or another, people get real shanks in there, like stuff that you're like, how the heck? Like butcher knives, you know what I mean? Like, and they
don't
make
even get
stuff,
me started on the stuff that the guards
and stuff
bring
that's
in.
like that would be lethal, right? Like people, things that could kill somebody, and you're worried about a little wire. They were worried about lead pencils, and I'm like, a lead pencil.
Well,
you're not going to kill somebody with a lead pencil. You know,
we could order razors 50 at a time.
Yeah,
shaving razors.
Yeah,
but
yeah, and and with that, like you could make all kinds of crazy things. And I knew guys that specialized in that, like not that I watched them make it, but they, you know what I mean? They're like, that was their hustle at one point, right? Do you know what I mean? Like they were known for
ours
that.
was push pins. So you could order 100 push pins and you would put them up on your wall to put up pictures.
Yeah.
And there was guys that would melt down the push pins. They'd melt down the push pins and then they would just solder all of the tiny push pins together. And so then you'd have a 10-inch, needle.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and then anyways, the whole thing is, but to your point, they were worried about the typewriter.
So I couldn't, so I had to do everything by hand.
And it makes no sense.
Yeah. So at that point, I've presented all the evidence that I was going to present. I've had all the witnesses that I was going to need. And it's time for the briefing stage. And I knew, the brief was going to be massive because my rights were violated, like in a lot of ways. It wasn't just the Miranda rights. It went on and on. Sure. And so I thought, okay, I need at least 90 days or something, you know what I mean? I thought, for starters, right? 90 days, 3 months, because I'm trying to get out of there, right? So I'm trying to get my conviction overturned. And the prosecutor pushes back and he fights tooth and nail to only give me 30 days. And 30 days, I was like, 30 days? Like, you understand? Like, that's nothing for the amount of, because I had to get the transcript. Just to get the transcripts for all these hearings was going to take 30 days. So how are you going to ask me to get it done before I even have the transcripts to be able to cite the record, right? And make references to the record. So the short of it was I asked for continuance because they love continuances, right? Like that's one of the favorite things for attorneys to do, and I'd already learned the game a little bit. So I said, "Oh, Your Honor, may I ask for a continuance?" And that ended the conversation, right? Because it was a heated argument with the prosecutor. He didn't want to give me more than 30 days. And during that time, I talked to my mom, talked to some people that there at the prison that knew a little bit about the law, but mostly just thinking about it myself, like a game of chess, right? Strategically, what do I do here? I know what I want to say. 30 days is not enough. It's and I thought of what's worst case scenario? If I lose, then what happens? If I represent myself in that final stage right now, what does it mean if I lose? If I don't, what does that mean if I lose? Just looking at the worst case scenario. Anyways, the short of it is this: when I came back 30 days later for, after the continuance, right, I had made the decision that I was going to go ahead and invoke my right to counsel again. And so they went ahead and appointed counsel, and got probably the best, not probably, during that entire phase, the best attorney that I've had, you know what I mean?
Wow.
Scott Williams, Scott E. Williams, because there's two of them here in Utah, right? But this guy, and I just went out to lunch with him about a month ago.
Wow.
Gone out to lunch with him a couple times, and he came on board, and he wrote the brief. But I say he wrote the brief, and with all respect to Scott, right? Like, because he did a great job, but that was, 60, 70% of that was all me, right? I had written all that, and it was hundreds of pages, right?
Yeah, of course.
Hundreds, written by hand.
Yeah. When did you find out that it was overturned?
So then he came to me. So it was interesting because the way it all happened, it was a negotiation, like, right? Because had they just given me, right, they said, hey, we messed up.
No.
Then at that point I walk free and I have a multi-million-dollar lawsuit, right? Because I lost everything. And I was starting to do well, right? I had properties, I had a home, I had commercial building, I had, all these things and everything. I lost everything, right?
Yep.
Plus 12 years, And so no, it was a negotiation, right? Because that's how it works. And he negotiated to have all of my convictions dropped, right? So everything was overturned, but on the condition that I would plead guilty to something. And what they decided that they were willing to offer me was a manslaughter. So it's a 1 to 15. I'd already done 11 at that point.
Sure.
So they, that was the offer, and that's what I accepted. So,
wow.
And it was not easy.
I bet it wasn't.
Oh, it took another, I don't know how many months of just thinking about it.
Yeah.
To finally come to the conclusion that, again, I played it like a game of chess, thought about it, and the thing that because I also create a little bit of content right on YouTube, and one of the things that one of the videos that I created, and I don't think people realize this as well, right? Like general public knows this, but prosecutor can know that you're innocent, 100%. He can have black and white evidence. He knows you're innocent, but they can drag it out for years if they want to, for years and years and years and years, even if he knows you're 100% innocent. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So I played it all out, and, I'd watched enough of those Dateline shows to know this, right? To come to this realization, seeing that pattern, right? That this was something that they do. So I thought, if he's offering me this and given everything I presented, because eventually I got to know the prosecutor. We ended up having like I wouldn't call us friends, but just a relationship of some sort, right? Hey, how you doing? How was your weekend? Kind of thing. You know what I mean? Even though moments later we'd be at each other's throat, right? Sure. Arguing about something, or he'd be attacking me and throwing dirt on me. Sure. But I learned to play the game, right? That's how they how they play the game, right? You see them.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So anyways, the point is that I came to the realization that if he really wanted to, he could drag this out and could keep me, incarcerated for another 7 years. And I thought, if I could accept this at 11, if I've done 11 years, I'll get out, here in a few months. It actually took a long time to get out. I didn't come after the reversal. It took a long time. And so anyways, I decided to just do that and accept it, and, talk to my mom, you know what I mean? Because like I said, she was like my superstar, my hero, right? Throughout the whole experience, that she was just there. Best cheerleader. I mean, she was amazing, and I would consult with her, right? Even though she didn't understand the law the way I did, but
sure.
But it's still, you know what I mean? Like there's there's wisdom there that's undeniable, and anyways, came to the conclusion that was the right decision to make. So I accepted that. Yeah,
it had to feel good to walk out.
To walk out, yeah. Not to accept that.
No. To walk out had to feel good.
Yeah.
Finally, right?
Yeah.
Man, and where does that journey start? You walk out. How do you retool for the people that are listening? Where do you start the entrepreneurial journey at that point? Because you've lost everything.
Yeah. So I had, those stimulus checks that everybody got. So I had those waiting for me, you know what I mean?
Okay.
And, even though, putting aside whether or not, we think that's a good thing, I had those sitting there waiting for me. So I had, was it $3,000 or whatever it was, you know what I mean? Okay. It was something, right? Because I was broke. You get out and you got nothing. Nothing. Luckily, I had some clothes, right? Because my parents had saved some of my clothes. Okay. Paroled to their house. Okay. And but here's something that's interesting. Something I did that I would, if somebody listening, right, would implement this, like this could be huge.
Okay.
because it took so long for me to get out, right? So I pled guilty right around 11 years. It might have been a little bit before, a little bit after, but it took about a year before getting out. I knew I was getting out. So I spent that time putting together business plans, thinking about mapping it out, writing it out. What am I going to do? Talking to people that recently been out going, hey, what apps are out there? You know what I mean? Like what's this Cash App? You know, what's Venmo? How does that work? You know, like it just trying to learn as much as possible, writing stuff down, mapping it out. I put together a few business plans and, put together a few business plans. So when I got out, within 2 weeks, I had an LLC set up, a limited liability company set up. And it felt natural just because I'd been thinking about it for almost a year. And then I immediately started, just offering my services, and it took a while to get some traction, but one thing led to another, and yeah, here we are.
I love it.
Yeah.
What's a typical day like now for you?
Typical day, so it varies. It's not exactly the same every single day. Some days I'll get up like just before 3. Some days I'll get up a little bit after 3 in the morning. Today was a little bit after 3 in the morning, and got my morning routine, right? Shave my head every single day, listen to some good stuff, whether it's a book, right, on Audibles, right? Listen to something on YouTube, right? Something, whether it's educational or inspirational, and make it into the office by, today I made it in just before 5. I think it was just before 5. Yeah, it's like 4 something. I can't remember exactly. I got it, I keep track of this stuff, right? Sure. To see if I'm, to make sure that I stay disciplined. And, get into the office, and, we just moved to a nice new office. It's almost 3,000 square feet. And, I got a bunch of people that work for me. So this morning, just going through emails and delegating, that's probably one of the skills that I'm working on the most right now, is getting better at delegating and systems and processes, trying to get obsessed with that, because that's the key to freedom, right? Is being able to create enough
to scale.
Mm-hmm. To scale and freedom. Yeah.
Big time. What are you working on now that you can share with everybody? What's a big goal or project?
A number of things. So right now, so in a nutshell, right? So on the I have a business called Synergy Legal Services, mm-hmm. and we're going through the approval process with the Innovation Office to become a full-blown law firm. In the meantime, I have a couple of attorneys that I work with, and we have a bunch of staff, and it's going well, right? We're doing all sorts of things there, but we just heard back from the Innovation Office just last week, so we should have an answer here in the next 2 to 3 months.
Fun.
Yeah, and so that's one thing, and I'm looking to grow that to be a huge law firm. Like God willing, if it all works out the way it's supposed to, the way I envisioned it, it'll be a huge law firm. I want to have 50 plus attorneys working for me, an army of attorneys doing good stuff. Mm-hmm. Not the garbage that you and I had to put up with, or I had to put up with. Yeah.
Yeah. And
that experience helps with this, right? Like I talk to them this way. Like I'm very direct, and I'm, you know what I mean? It helped. That's part of what that whole experience has done.
Big time.
Where I can look at somebody in the eyes and go, look, you know what I mean? Whatever, right? Like whatever you got to tell them, even if it hurts their feeling. And I could be delicate and tactful, but sometimes you have to let people know.
Communication is key. Communication is key. Yeah, especially in business.
It is.
Yeah. I think a lot of times people are afraid of confrontation because they think that it has to have animosity attached to it. Yeah. And it doesn't.
It doesn't. No.
Mm-mm. No, but communication is key. I think communication kind of resets the table and allows you to refocus on where you're really going. Yeah. Yeah. Removes distractions.
And it's funny because, in prison, you learn that the hard way, right? Because in prison, if you're having an issue with somebody, you learn, right? If you're going to be at the top of the food chain, or you're going to survive and not be one of the victims in there, right? And get bullied around and all that, you learn to be able to pull people aside and go, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? Mm-hmm. Right? And that can go any kind of way, right? Like, because if you call somebody to your cell, right, to talk to them, it can stay a conversation, or it can go south, right? But you got to learn to be okay with that, to be comfortable being uncomfortable, knowing that, you know what I mean? Especially if you're calling somebody who's, bigger, better fighter, better shape, or whatever, or has more people backing them up, it could really go bad. Yeah. But you have to be comfortable with that.
Being uncomfortable.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the other thing I'm working on, which I'm real excited about, is we own just a little bit over an acre of land in Hodgenville, Kentucky. Have you ever heard of Hodgenville? Mm-mm. Most people haven't. So Hodgenville, Kentucky is where Lincoln was born. That's the birthplace of Abraham Lincoln. They have two national sites, right? Federally funded national sites, his birthplace and his childhood home. And we own just over an acre, half a block from downtown Hodgenville. We got the city behind us, city council, the mayor, everybody behind us. And we're developing the Lincoln Hotel in the birthplace of Abraham Lincoln. They have 250,000 people that visit every single year and don't have a single hotel. Yeah.
That's crazy.
And Ford just invested $5.6 billion, 15 minutes away. They just constructed the largest electric battery plant in North America. 5,000 jobs easily. And that was the original projections. Now with everything that's going on with tariffs, it's probably more like 7,000, 8,000 jobs. And it's just, yeah, it's huge. It's changing the entire landscape of that area.
That's fun.
Yeah. They had the two massive buildings. Anyways, so we're developing the Lincoln Hotel, and that's another project that I'm super excited about.
That's fun, man.
Yeah.
What's your message to the world?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
I know it's a big one.
it's a big one, yeah. I mean, it's I mean, if you're asking me just on the spot, I didn't you were asking me that question, but if you just ask me now, just I'd say to the world or to the world?
Yeah.
You know, I think if we're talking about at that scale, I would say my message to the world would be, I think if we were all just a little more empathetic and just listened a little bit better, right? Tried to understand somebody that we don't necessarily agree with, I think this would be a better world. If I think, yeah, you know what I mean? It goes kind of it's not a prison thing. It's just in general. I see so much hatred and so much, people just, you know what I mean? That just negativity.
Yeah.
And I think, and if we want to bring it back home a little bit more, like with the Lincoln Project, right? Like that's one of the things that we're pushing. There's two big things we're pushing is family values. Because if you destroy families here in America, it's over, right? And there's books written about this stuff that are much smarter than I am. And unity.
Yeah.
Right? Unity. Despite the fact that we don't all agree on, on a lot of things, I think unity is important. And, and I think there's a lot of people, right, that are rooting and hoping and predicting that this is the fall of the great empire, right? And I consider myself an American, you know what I mean? A naturalized American citizen. Yeah. I was born in El Salvador, but this country has been great to me, my family, and we've, had that bad experience, but that aside, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
There's a lot to be grateful for, and I would hate to have to witness the fall of America. And I think that if we don't get our shit together, it's and
it's gonna be tough.
And you have to, like I said, family is important. Yeah. And right now, if you look at all the stats and everything that's going on, it's going in the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with you.
Yeah.
What about to the boys and girls behind bars?
To them, stay positive, work on yourself, quit wasting time playing cards, quit wasting time. Because that's the most common thing you see, right? It's people playing cards or just the poor me, right? Mentality. I think, you know what I mean? Just, stay positive, work on yourself. If you know what I mean? If there's nothing you can do to overturn your case, assuming you're innocent, right? Or even if you are guilty, right? And you're doing 3 or 4 years, whatever it is, like it doesn't matter, because ultimately that time that you're there, like you can use it to build yourself, right? Like you can come out with a huge advantage over like people out here, like all of us running around, like constantly busy, have no time to read anything. You know what I mean? Just in general, right? Like people just are incredibly busy. But if somebody were to take the time to say, hypothetically, somebody gets, cracked for something, where they end up doing 3 years. Could you imagine 3 years of just reading a bunch of business books and self-development books, just doing that for 3 years? Man, you'd come out like a rock star. I mean, you'd be able to succeed. I mean, no matter what challenge comes before you, you'd be able to overcome it, right? You'd be, Hercules, you know what I mean? Like
mentally. You'd be ready.
Yeah, you'd be ready for any challenge that comes your way, right? To lift, to withstand whatever amount of pressure and stress that comes your way. But that's not what most people do. That would be my advice: is work on yourself. You know what I mean?
I love it, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah. Pleasure.
Likewise, brother. We'll see you soon.
Yeah.